Hello, my fellow YouTubers. This is Roy back again. Let's build some people up and I'll be right back. Right now, we got this heavy ass PMH 1.5 inch thick stock stuck to the wheel. And there's no power to it. Here's the two ends to the wire. No power. No power going to that wheel, and I'm sticking that bar. That bar is so heavy. How heavy is it? 20 pounds maybe? Every bit of. What's up, Jason? Hey man, love that. Thank you for making that video for me. Beautiful, beautiful work there. I'm going to be running off of that, trust me. Right here, I have these little taps. And that is one heavy PMH bar. And no way it would even stick to here. I took a 12-volt battery, touched the two like a bitch, right? And stuck it to the wheel. So right now, what I could tell everybody is that this wheel is a PMH, because that should not be sticking to that wheel at all. Should not be sticking to that wheel. I'll do one quick demonstration here. Let's pull it off. Now there's no way. There's no way. This thing is heavy. It's crazy heavy. 1.5 inch stock. So I'll go ahead and I'll put one connection there and one connection here. Let's get it stuck. Watch it pull it. Woo, that thing's heavy. So I got it stuck right now. Let me see if it holds it when I disconnect it. Nope. Let me check something real quick. This is pretty cool. So I'll take the compass to check the polarity. So that's north, that's south. Let me make sure I got the poles touching the right. So that's north. North, south, north, south. Let me see, that's south, north, south. North, south, north. Alright, so I think we're at the right poles. I can almost get this to stick out long-wise, and you know, if I can do that, that's some serious. Maybe it's about balance. But I don't want to get it stuck there. Maybe if I do this. I don't know how I just did it, but Well, I was lucky the first time. I guess I should have left it alone. But we'll leave that alone. We got other things to talk about. So, alright, so you see that right there. Secondly, can you see the PMH? Yeah, you can see the PMH. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I am just going to set up the PMH to be a driver for a second. Let's see what happens. Alright, so I'm going to, you guys can see all that. Let me make sure you see my fingers. Alright. Now I'm going to be the reed switch. Not being a good reed switch, but it's all about timing. It's 12-volt battery going in there. Pretty cool stuff, right? Alright, so let's talk some numbers real quick here. So basically we have a whole spool of 16 gauge wire on here, which is 10 pounds, 1,256, and I ran short, so I had to add an extra, actually short on 2, so I had to run extra 100 feet, so there's 1,356 feet. So if we do the numbers, we'll say that volts divided by resistance. Now the resistance of all this is all together. So here's your loops here, and everything's just one wire. So the whole thing is 5 ohms, okay? So if you take the 5 ohms and you figure out how much voltage you're going to throw in there, you can figure out how much amperage you're going to put in there. So we're probably looking at 1 amp. But the key thing is, so what I'm going to build now is 2 slip rings, okay? And I'm going to attach them and keep them insulated along the top so everybody can see them. I have these commutator brushes that I had from a motor a long time ago. Where did I put that? Commutator brush would be where? Good question, where the commutator brush went. Well, here it is. So I got some good old commutator brush. So this is on a spring, and there's your wire, and this will run on the ring. So we'll have one for a positive, one for a negative, and I'll make the ring so it's isolated in between the spokes, so it only goes off. For instance, I'll set the commutator in front of the drive-in PMH. And when it's approaching the drive-in PMH, it will activate only those 2 coils. Those 2 coils right there we just showed, are gorilla. They are like so strong. Not to mention, you just seen what I did with that PMH, just turning the wheel by just tapping it, right? So wheel moves pretty good. What's up, Tommy in the house? So you can see that moving along. This took a long time to wrap here. This is 66 turns, 10 inches per turn. And this comes out to about, each magnet has about, I would say, about a frequency range, a resonant frequency range of like 20 hertz. So you have to do the math on each one. But basically, if we fire up 2 at one time, this becomes a PMH of massive strength. And it becomes a resonant frequency of 40 hertz, just because we're isolating it. So, interesting stuff there. I have these wrapped and tied tight with some tape. I know we're not looking to put a lot of amperage through these, so I felt the tape was safe. Normally I wouldn't really mess with tape if I was dealing with super high voltage. But we can see at least, let me try and see if I can get this again, but we can see at least that the coil, I think when I was doing it before, I think it was just the fact that this doesn't have a good connection. You can even see like this just sticks. That's how strong the magnets are. Let's see if that, well, I know this sticks, this should stick all by itself without anything connected. No big deal. So when we get to this big guy, it is a big deal, because there ain't nothing holding this, but obviously the wheel held it. That's one magnet holding this right now. One magnet, not even two. I don't know how I got that to stick before. Superman strength. There you go. Tell me that's not some cool shit right there. So the fact that these magnets couldn't even hold that bar, and there goes that magnet right now. No power hooked up. That heavy ass piece of metal is stuck to these two right here, only because we treated them like a PMH. All right, I don't know where to go from here other than hopefully tomorrow or the next day I'll have some time to build the two rings. And I think the rings will help isolate each individual section as a PMH. So I could put up slip rings periodically around the whole wheel. So whatever section of coils I have pertaining to collectors or movers or whatever they may be, I could isolate the strength of the field of each individual magnet or each individual pair of magnets. I can go all over the place with this. This is crazy cool. Still hanging by itself. That is one heavy son of a bitch. Still hanging by itself. I don't even think I have a scale that goes that heavy. Let me check my scales here. Let me see, what is this? That's a 10-pound scale. That's way over 10 pounds. I'm not even gonna waste my time. All right, guys, well, leave your comments. Love it, love the comments, love the help through the process. Like I said, we're all in this together. And let me make a disclaimer, this is not Ed's wheel. He's dead, been dead for 100 years. Well, no, not 100 years. Let's just say he's been dead since the 50s. So he's been dead for every bit of 70 years. In the frickin' ship. Now I am. So where I take it from here is up to me. He did a great job back from what he had. And now with the technology we have, what we do know, what we left to the wayside. I'm picking up the scraps of what we left to the wayside, because I think that's where all the key information is that nobody wants to look at anymore. That's right, Jason. I appreciate it. It is my wheel now. And look at that diagram you made up. Hey, Hassan. January 20th is the eclipse. Is there any significance to it? Well, I guess eclipses are really based on where you are on the planet, right? So maybe you would have an event or some type of significance in that regional area, but I don't know. I mean, I never really followed up on Ed Leedskalnin with his astrological stuff, other than just looking at his readings and just trying to make some sense of it. Like I said, you can look at his writings and go down, put your head in the hole, and the hole goes to many different areas. And that's what I just did in the last 7 years, is try to learn enough to get me to this level. Because this level is way above where I was before. Well, yeah, right, Tommy Channels and Hassan, you know, he writes about it. Well, maybe we have to dig a little deeper into it. You can see that bar is still sticking all by itself. It wouldn't hold a second ago, right? It takes a lot of sticky goo in there. So those negative charges running through that sucker and won't let it go. It's pretty damn good. Look at that. Won't let it go. It's stuck on there. No power going to that sucker, and it's stuck. So it goes to show we can make gorilla strength in individual pairs of magnets. I can make them individually also as well, because each section has its own little connection. I didn't want to cut the wires because there always seems to be a problem with connecting wires together. As good as you think you are, without wire nuts and a bunch of wire nuts, it's rough. All right, guys. Well, leave your comments. Hopefully you appreciate it. I sure do. I appreciate your comments as well as the information. My email is vinnysaintvincent@aol.com if you want to personally just email me. Jason, love your paperwork there. And I think that we're going to run off of that with the... Jason was talking about coming out of the PMH, which is AC going in, right? And coming out of that into a AC capacitor, coming out of the AC capacitor into a full wave bridge rectifier, coming out of the bridge rectifier into a DC capacitor, coming out of the DC capacitor with one leg tied to a reed switch, and the reed switch back to the other side of the PMH, I believe, and because I'm not looking at the diagram right now, Jason, but it would allow the capacitor to dump, the DC capacitor. And I think we could probably take that and kind of incorporate a tank circuit. Right, Jason? I got that right? And this is all out of my head because all this shit's on my phone, so I'm just kind of like pretty at wow at it. So the coil array that's on either individually here or all around, we could probably look at each one individually, because before I did this, I just showed that magnet will hold this up as long as it's got current running through it. Now, the current going through both of these, like that took probably every bit of 10 to 15 amps, right, from a car battery into that to make that happen. And you can see it's stuck. It's stuck right now. Say if it was 10 to 15 amps, I'm going to guess that stuck that. That's how much energy is stuck in that right now. So if I go to pull that off, like Ed says, you'll have light everywhere, right? You're breaking away the keeper bar. That's your keeper bar. So basically, if I break that, the energy is going to run loose through all the magnets and get dissipated. Cool stuff. Very cool. Cool stuff. That's right, Tommy. I love your comments too, Tommy. Tommy, you get deep over there. You leave some nice long comments. I love that stuff. Let me see what else. So we got the 2 rings we're going to put in, the 2 slip rings. We're going to commutate those so we can have a connection when these are approaching the PMH. The commutator will be activated. Turn on the two magnets in front of it. That'll be a driver. The other one can do the same thing with a pickup coil, the other PMH. So it's only magnetizing. This is being conservative too as well. That's what I was thinking as well, is the whole wheel itself, if you energize the whole thing, you're wasting a lot of energy, unless you have coils all around it and you want it all lit up. But if you don't, you should be able to specifically pick what quadrum you want lit up, and that's how we do it with the slip rings and with the commutator brushes, to where we can activate any individual section to do it its job, I guess I would call it. All right, leave your comments. Damn, my Eagles lost tonight, but I guess here we are with the Saints and the Patriots and the Kansas City. I would have to say, if my Eagles lost, I got no skin in the game here. So I'm going to probably have to say, go Kansas City. You guys, leave your comments. Don't beat me down about the Kansas City now. All right, Jason, you're saying I don't need a commutator. Well, if I don't, email me, Jace, and kind of let's talk about how do you activate certain sections of the stator, we'll call it. If we don't want it all on, if we come out of a DC capacitor and we use somebody else left a comment that use a magnetic relay. Well, a magnetic relay would make a contact based off of what switching device, which would be the wheel, a magnetic wheel, but you'd have to have a capacitive storage, which is the DC, could dump it there. The relay, I guess the reed switch would do that as a dump, but you can't run too much through a reed switch. So I would have to, Jace, if you're saying I don't need a commutator, that I would want to figure out how to be able to control each spoke individually. So without a commutator, how would you go about that? So that would be my question I ask all you guys. Right now with the dual commutator up top, you got the positive and negative always touch and pulse. My reed switch does it. Let me show you guys. I got this reed switch here, which is pretty big for a reed switch. That's one of the types of reed switches I have, and you can see the little burn mark in there, and that's just what the wheel's doing to it without even putting a car battery to it. Well, I just did put a car battery to it, you can see, but I don't know how reed switches hold up. Maybe more of like a door alarm or some kind of magnetic switching device. All right, Jason, I like that. Build my own magnetic relay or switching device. Yeah, I guess I could, but I would want it to be able to go off per pole, meaning that when it senses a pole coming up, it needs to switch. Well, it looks like the wheel is a big switch of some sort. I mean, it definitely. Let's go ahead and do one more. Please do, Jason. You do great diagram drawings, and the weird thing is I understand them. So let me go ahead and let's go to the car battery again, and this time I'm gonna just. This is what I'm thinking. The wheel's got such less resistance that the wheel turns really good. So look, if I just touch, let me offset the poles. You guys see that? Yeah. So if I just touch, there you go. So if I just touch, Oh crap. Got the big boy coming around. Let me pull this off. Oh shit. Oh yeah, that's a heavy one. So let's go this way. So here goes to show you that timing's everything. And this is just me with my hand being the timer, and I know I suck at this. So I'm just hitting it sporadically when I know the pole's approaching. Look at the that's moving from just me tapping. And when it comes across the opposite or the same pole, look, it just freezes just like that. I call that control, man. Look at that. Now, if I was switching that with a good switchy, so you are right, Jason. I do need to build my own. Right? Not bad. I mean, you can see just one PMH. We got 19 ohms of resistance on those pair of wires on that PMH. Each one's about, I don't know, 18 or 9.5 ohms or 1,500 turns, if you want to do the math, of 22 gauge wire on each spool. So there's a lot of ohms in there, but you can see how it's pulling, and it ain't heating up. So it'll way handle this. Now this in itself, it's got 66 turns, which would be 54.5 feet of wire of 16 gauge on each one. So you can do the numbers on that too. So it's got 5 ohms of resistance all the way around, and I got taps that spots here where I can tap each one. All right. Well, leave your comment. Hopefully you guys enjoy my buddy in the background there. He's picked him up out of the trash. I couldn't drive by him. Yeah. I couldn't drive by him at all. Oh hell. They're kidding me. All right. Leave your comments, guys. Well, 54. It's 54. Well, according to this chart here, what I noticed was that E was the note, right? The note. The frequency of E was 20.60 for my musicians out there. And the wavelength was 1,674.62 centimeters, which there's 2.4 centimeters in 1 inch. So when you do all of it, I rounded it up. It was like 54 point something. So I rounded up to 55. There you go. So the reason I'm even into this, because there's very much importance on sound, right? And they're all tied together. So somehow we're gonna see why E seems to be at the top end of the Schumann resonance, which, if you look at the Schumann, all righty. Power ran out of the phone. Who do I still have on? Sorry, guys. I wasn't tethered. The damn phone went dead. Is that crazy? Is Jason on here? Jason, you out there?
So I was just reading back on YouTube comments. Hey, Tommy. Dude, I can't believe I lost my power, man. So I was reading back on comments, and Jason had a great comment there. He says, tune the pipe to E. What's up, Maker in the house? Hey, make sure you go back and watch the video. We're kind of late in the video. Kind of lost power on the phone, got back connected, tethered, and here I am just kind of rehashing everything we talked about and stuff here. Yeah, that's crazy strong. Look, I went to pull it off, it sucked it back out of my hand. Well, I like the number 3 because E is 3, but backwards. I love it. So there's a gentleman you guys need to all, when you hang up, when we get off of this, go on YouTube and look up Julius Sumner Miller. It's probably not alive anymore. And he, back in the day, I don't know when, but I would have to say it was the videos were done early. I don't know, 70s, 60s, I'm thinking, 50s maybe, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. I guess I'll have to do a little more research. But Julius Sumner Miller, he explains phenomenons in the way that the old timers knew it. And here I think as we get older and from generation to generation, we kind of lose the old time remedies. And the reason I'm even bringing this up, because this is like Ed Leedskalnin back, where were we at? 2019, say he just got the property. I think it was 1917. He got the property of Coral Castle. So we're looking at 100 years ago. This was in the junkyard. Now think about that. These magnets came out of Model T Fords, and everything that was up here came from a junkyard or a Model T Ford. There's a lot of stuff that's not here that Ed had he could work with, which was the Model T Ford's ignition system stuff. You follow me? That stuff. Step this up like a whole, like I should even get that stuff, but I don't need it because it took me a long enough time to get this wheel and the mental capacity to do this wheel like this. 7 years. I don't know. I just avoided probably your 10 basic or 5 basic laws about electricity, and I went into the far right side of my brain. And I went into everything. Tesla is far right. As much as left of a thinker he became on his doing numbers and figuring out and calculating and coming up with things that previous people have done, and he put them all together like a beautiful student. He made sense and he made it his own. I believe that that's where I'm at with the help of you guys, because I'm not an electrical engineer. I know nothing about electric as of 7 years ago, other than I probably could wire a wall, okay? And even jumping into the Tesla stuff, I was nervous. I think somewhere down here, I wrote this, and this was it. So this was 120 AC, that would be like a mott. And then this was the secondary, I guess the primary, the spark gap, and the cap capacitor. I wrote that down, the things that I need to focus on and I need to learn about. And I dove into Tesla. And you know what? The best thing I ever did was mess with high voltage, because unless you mess with high voltage, you don't really know what high voltage is even about. So now I'm here on the low end, and this is what the shit I just jumped over. I just stepped over it. And here, now I'm digging into it. But it took all the other experiences of learning about different people to get me where I'm at. So at least now, so you guys can understand that my perspective, my mindset is more based on the knowledge of the other stuff around electromagnetism and electromagnetism, because I would say my strong points are electrostatic, a great understanding on materials or elements or even atoms. I understand how the movement is based on their makeup, and I understand what has to happen for the other thing to happen so it becomes something. So here I am with Edge Wheel, and I already in my mind want it to become something. So for it to become something, I have to not only have one division of what I want it to become, and what do I want it to become? I want it to be a keeper of time that builds static, where I teach myself how to statically make a aerial dual capacitor and a below dual capacitor. And the dual capacitor is my inductive coupling, loose coupling to the ground, where all the power is. There is no positive or negative in the ground. It's just energy. You follow me? So out of there, we're going to couple it with a dielectric so the plates get saturated with that energy, like strong amount of ground energy. From the surface of the ground, a majority of it is aluminum dust, and also the majority of it is you have aluminum dust in there, and you have what's it called? Your dielectric, it's silica. So 90 feet, the majority is silica, and then there's aluminum dust in there. So the aluminum dust and powder helps the conductor, like we talked about. The one I know is the MIT experiment. Now I'm sure other people have done that experiment where they dissect the capacitor and show that it's the conductor that moves the charge, and it's the dielectric that stores it. So with that in the head, you kind of got to look at the ground and say, okay, well, all right, everything to me is organic in the ground because we don't see the metals. I like that, Tommy. So, where you have nature there, you have to look at nature and you have to open up, how do I tap into it? So if Mother Nature wants to allow me at this time to tap into it, and I feel the time is right. And I want to invite you guys to help me on the journey, because I think that I'm not sitting where I was 7 years ago, where people on YouTube were making fun of me, which they had a right to, because here I am, I made a wheel. To me, it was just a freaking magnet. But the attraction to Ed and what I've learned through the process, I would say that give a kid a basketball, and if he can't make the basket, eventually, if he keeps trying, he's going to make the basket. So I always said that my strongest attribute was perseverance. I don't quit. I don't quit. If I quit, it's big. It's big. I'm not talking about like a job. That's the only thing I would quit on. But I would never quit on myself or my family or my friends. I wouldn't quit. Or my country. Or mankind, I wouldn't quit. I don't quit. No quit. So at least you know my mindset. So love the fact that I have you guys as my family to help me on this journey. And I think the accomplishment would be that everybody who has ever left a comment, and everybody who is, whether it's positive or negative, has somehow had my mind think about both sides. And the ones I just don't pay attention to would be the ones about the free energy, or it's I don't know, it's the insulting things. Not the free energy is insulting. I'm just saying it's the things that I know nothing, and I don't know where they do. It's funny too, because you can watch one of my old videos from way back, like 6 years ago, and that's all they ever seen. So I'm like, wow, I read the comment, I'm just like, say to myself, well, I didn't know anything. They're kind of like calling me out, but I mean, that was me back then. That's not now. So I almost want, I leave a comment, but I just don't do anything. But I almost leave a comment like, hey, watch my new videos. But people have their ideas and perspectives. So, all right, well, I'm officially going to bounce off and hopefully look back. If you missed the beginning part of the video, look back and just kind of see where we went with the whole video. And from here, we're going to next video, you'll be seeing the wheel turn on its own. That's the next video I post. It'll, whatever the 1 PMH is dumping in the AC capacitor, which I was thinking probably good. Got some good air conditioning capacitors, like one of these big ass chubbies. That's an AC capacitor. So we'll come out of the, remember everything's AC. So we're gonna come out of, that's why I wound 22 gauge, 1500 turns on each one. Didn't care about the resistance, but that's obviously how you make the electricity or the voltage higher, is by doing that. So that's almost a great conversation to get into on my quest here about resistance, why resistance is important. So the resistance is making the voltage higher. Food for thought. Leave your comments on that one. Because if resistance hurts in current, why doesn't it hurt on you want to make voltage? So kind of look at it in a different way. You got it, Tommy. So with coming out of here, we would go into the capacitor. So we're coming in AC, it's an AC capacitor. It's got some, what is it? It is 370 volt, which is good. And it looks like 7.5 microfarads. I guess right there would be it, 7.5 UF microfarads, I think. I gotta check into that. I got a bunch of these, so I'll have to check and see where I'm at in capacity, because the more capacity I'm dumping, the more current I'm gonna have. Remember that, we're building pressure. So we'll come out of here into this, we'll come out of here into a full wave bridge rectifier, and then we're coming out of DC. Coming out of DC, and now we're going into a capacitor. That's a DC capacitor. So here's a DC capacitor, a nice one here. So this DC capacitor, it's a good one to use. This is 6,000 UF microfarads, 65 surge, 50 volt DC. So we'll go there. So we'll come out of that AC one into the DC, and in between it will be a full wave bridge rectifier, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll come out of that and we'll connect to a reed switch, which will dump this into this, into the dual PMH. So when the PMH is in front of, well, this mini PMH on the wheel, I'm calling it, and the wheel's in front of the PMH, it'll be making this dump into that. Full strength, gorilla strength. So it'll do it halfway, and then it'll turn off, and then it'll start it again. So the strength we showed in the beginning of the video, where we were holding up the gigantic PMH here from the wheel, and I let go and got the electric off, and it's still stuck. That's amazing, guys. Still stuck to the wheel. That strength going into here will increase the voltage and the pressure going through here into the DC. The DC, See, this will be like always switching. So that's why we're going to have to get into how fast does this thing need to turn, right? How fast? And it's going to be all based on what we're doing. So wheel turning, magnetic Superman gorilla strength going into here, a large inductive field there, that magnetic field. The faster it switches, the bigger the field. So we're going to have to see what the speed of this has to be. So for instance, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a little turn, and I'm going to say, well, I'm thinking that this speed here, which should be no big deal to reproduce the energy I just put in turning that wheel to make this wheel spin. So the energy at that point, once I get the movement of the wheel, us people will be able to figure out how much energy is going in to the driver coil and how much energy is coming out. At that point, by numbers, we can decipher if we're going to get above zero, over unity, or more coming out than coming in. But remember this. We also have to figure out if we add more coils, is Len's law going to come into play, because he shows up. But so far, with the PMHs, Len's law doesn't seem to be showing up. But maybe if it does, it won't be felt because these are super strong. Well, the whole system is going to be based on push and pressure build. See, the whole thing is about the pressure. So here, you got this storing but dumping, and as it's dumping, it's building pressure in that guy. So the pressure wouldn't be in here, other than the inherent pressure that from the speed of that electromagnetic rate of change that's going on in between the iron, the magnet, the iron, and the coil. So that would be what pushes that, which would be a good pusher, which goes in there and would be your pressure buildup. And then we would have that hooked up to a magnetic switch that would dump that capacitor. When that capacitor dumps, it needs to have a rod coming over, and it needs to be connected to these coils. So that's what I was saying to Jason earlier. I was saying when we were talking on the channel here that I need to be connected. Same line, same maker, same lines of inertia. And you understand this too. We're not even talking inside the wheel like Tommy just mentioned. We're just talking about how the circuitry is going to work. And then you have coils around the outside. But the whole inside, we still have set up to where the inside, I start to bring it in. So there goes south pole to that bolt. That bolt there is north pole. And then this bolt here is south pole, and then that other bolt is north pole. And the top part of this is north pole, but we established that the whole chassis of the wheel. Just want to make sure my compass is correct. Whole chassis of the wheel was all north on one of my past videos. Now it's all south. I don't even know what to say about that, guys. I really don't. It was north on my past video. Now it's south. So this is what I'm going to conclude, is that the chassis and whatever the outside field is that this is creating swap. It's flipping its poles the same. So the whole freaking chassis is not always north, because right now it's all south. And meanwhile, the center here is north. That is north. Down in here, it's showing north. And these are connected to the chassis, and they're showing south now. So I don't even know what to say about that, but as I add energy to it and it gets turning, anything's freaking possible. But I'm just saying, as a conclusion right now, I'm saying that the chassis itself is rotating its poles along with the parts that aren't. That's the opposite. For instance, this ring here, this ring is isolated. It's not connected to anything. So this is a ring, a metal ring here, where when this is in motion, and we know what happens here. Remember we showed that video where I put a bunch of metal clippings in here, and as you turn this, the metal clippings came the direction of the turn. You would think they'd go that way, right? So they come towards it, right? Even Ed says that magnetic current. Well, that's what will happen on the inside here. That's what will happen in here. We'll build up, Tommy, just like you said, we'll build up centrifugal force on the inside. When the wheel's turning, it's going to have, where is my thing? It's going to have its wheels running like a, and then from there, it's going to have like a skin effect where it comes out so far, but it's worth off. Why are they getting flung off? Because the wheel is spinning. I don't think it has to be 2,000 RPMs. I'm just saying, whatever the speed is, it'll obviously be a bit faster than this. But whatever the speed is, you're going to have it flinging off. And then on the inside is where you're going to have your pressure. And I believe that pressure can be treated as if it was say a hurricane. A hurricane spins on below the equator, it's a typhoon. If it spins above the equator, it's a hurricane. Why is that? Because the way it spins. So from the equator north, everything is spinning because of the North Pole is north. Everything is spinning clockwise. Correct me if I'm wrong. Everything below the equator is spinning counterclockwise, and that's your south. So when I made these coils to make the pole facing me the pole that I wanted it to be, know which way I was going to spin it. Spin the coil, and then I come around, and then I go counterclockwise. This became a south. So if you look at the planet Earth, this split in half as well. Is like so. I want to look, and you can see that there's pressure that you're going to build on the inside of the wheel, just like that spinning thing, where it spins so fast it throws you off. It throws everything off. So everything inside is going to want to come out. So if you look at the hurricane, the cyclones, I believe they build up pressure inside because it's turning counterclockwise. And correct me if I'm wrong here, if anybody knows more than I know here. If they're going like we get from the equator north and they're hurricanes, the pressure is outward. So if it's going clockwise, the pressure is getting thrown out like a centrifugal force. If it's running the opposite way, like a cyclone, the pressure builds up on the inside. Now, what I do know, I guess, is that when the pressure builds up on the inside, on the cyclones, they got up to 200-mile-an-hour winds with those cyclones. We don't see 200-mile-an-hour winds on the northern part of the hemisphere because of they're spinning the opposite way. So, with that being said, I kind of look at Mother Nature and just read on it and make some sense of it and say, okay, well, we're going to build the pressure up in here. So magnetic field on the outside, okay, it's turning, magnetic field on the outside. So you got all this flour going on. now the exciting thing is you have metal rings on the inside. The metal rings, iron, absorbs. It's made to absorb. So everything that's coming out here trying to, gets absorbed back in. If it don't get absorbed back in, the magnets itself, it'll get caught up in this upper ring, which is the chassis, and then this lower ring, which will be the opposing field naturally. I don't have to even do anything to this ring. This will be an opposite charge of what that is. Now, the key here is you have these bolts that are inside, which are bringing now the fire is appearing on the inside. So now you're adding circular, but you have to turn it in the direction of what's going to build pressure on the inside. I think it's very important. Leave your comments. So we're going counterclockwise. So now we're driving everything in. So everything now is being forced into the center. So that means the energy is going in the center. So that tells me right there needs a freaking coil. There's something that was under here. On Ed's wheel, this was all, you can pull all this apart, just like I can. So there's got to be a coil on the inside where there's some type of mother haven that's in the center that's a conductor. This is not a great conductor, but it's a conductor. So it can actually start, from what I see happening in a small dose, meaning like I just said that this chassis and these are flipping poles. So if that's happening, if you had a coil in there and had one connected to the chassis and the other connected to that, maybe that neutral ring, then you would have a release in the coil, because when the magnetic field changes, which I would think that it's constantly changing, because it's changing outside all the time, that it's also changing the chassis, and then what's going through that coil. We'll go there and just leave that there. Leave your comments, guys. Hopefully I didn't screw the video up too much with losing power, but I'll stay tethered in next time. Leave your comments. Peace out.